So I want to thank TS Partners for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. And I also want to thank Anthony yesterday, because Anthony from Laurel Hill, he basically broke the ice with a joke, and it went over well. So I think he opened up the floors to some bad humor. So there was a community, and there were a series of burglaries going on in that neighborhood. So there was this older couple one night. They're sitting there in their bedroom, real quiet, and they hear some rustling going on. And all of a sudden, somebody breaks in. The guy barges into their bedroom. He's got a ski mask. They're terrified. He pulls out a gun and he points it at the woman's head. And he says, "Tell me your name. Tell me your name." And she's panicking. She says, "My name's Elizabeth." And he stops for a second. He says, "You're lucky. My mother's name was Elizabeth." She's relieved. He goes through their drawers. They're sitting there. They don't know what to do. All of a sudden, he takes out the gun again and he points it at the husband. He says, "Tell me your name. Tell me your name." And he says, "My name is Henry, but my friends call me Elizabeth." I know, it's corny. I'm sorry. But the message is impactful. Who we are and what name we go by is everything. Why does it matter? You know, specifically, everybody in this room, we have a common denominator among us. We are very much focused on assets, and we take that job very seriously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. And you know, candidly, unlike many of the audiences that I speak with, most people have no clue what a medallion stamp is, or what it's supposed to represent, or why we need it. But you know, if there's anybody that doesn't understand why it's needed, essentially it's supposed to accomplish two things. Number one is it helps me verify that you are who you say you are, and number two is that you have the right to sign on behalf of that asset. So why do we care about medallions and authentication, specifically here today? As a transfer agent, we essentially make our living by processing. We generate revenue by processing. And if we can't comfortably process the requests that come in, it certainly affects us. Number two, our shareholders, we want them to be happy. We don't want them getting frustrated blaming us because they can't get a medallion. And number three, it's to protect ourselves. That's what it's there for. That's what it was created for. It wasn't necessarily created for shareholders, it was created for the transfer agents. So let's discuss this in the world of securities. One of the greatest Broadway shows ever closed this last year. I probably saw it 6 or 7 times myself. The original version of Les Mis came out in the 80s, and it was seen by over 60 million people. And for those of you who haven't seen it, who don't know what it is, it tells the gripping story of a guy by the name of Jean Valjean, who was a criminal at his youth, and then he went on later on in life, and he became this great guy in helping many people. And at the end of the play, he sings this song called "Who Am I? I'm 24601." That was his prison number back in the day, and now he's this refined person. And it goes through, how does he explain who he was versus who he is now? An identity crisis. So let's take that Les Mis theme and bring it into today's modern environment, okay? How do you prove that you are who you say you are? I won't tell you the amount of times 25 years ago, maybe in this exact casino, that some friends of mine tried to get in at 19 or 20 years old. And all that it was needed was a driver's license to prove that I am who I am and I was the right age. There are so many examples where we struggle of how to prove that this person is who they say they are. Probably the most often used example is when somebody forgets their Apple password, or you're trying to get into that old AOL account that you haven't used in 15 years, and it's literally a struggle to prove that you are who you say you are. I read another example of, specifically in the state of Ohio, the taxation, they were doing refunds, and 50% of the people that they wanted to provide a refund to, they required them to go through an identity test of sorts first to make sure that they were providing the funds to the right people. So it's very apparent, specifically in today's environment where there are cases of identity theft that run rampant, that we need to understand what we can do to protect ourselves. Let's talk about banks. I believe that many of the TS Partners clientele are banks. Can I just see by a raise of hands who's a bank, representing a bank? Wow, outnumbered completely. Okay, so maybe you can help me answer the following question that people ask me a lot over the last year. Why is it that many banks out there, maybe not in this audience, many banks out there have stopped offering a medallion stamp, or they've capped the limit at $100,000? when people ask me that question, I'm like, to be honest with you, it makes perfect sense. You're in the business of banking. Why should you be out there doing medallions and verifying IDs and the amount of paperwork that you have to review to ensure the safety of the transaction? I have a guy, I'm not saying it's a good thing at all, but he came over to me and he says, oh, I got a funny story to tell you about a bank, okay? He's like, I had 1 million shares, it was trading at $8 a share, $8 million, and I went into the bank, and the person that provides the medallion didn't really understand how to calculate it, so she took a look at the stock certificate, and she's like, oh, I see it's at 0.001. She was looking at the par value, and she happily stamped it and sent him on his way for his $1,000 transaction. So I'll get into our solution in a minute. For purposes now, we charge $149 for our process, for our medallion stamp. I love the story that goes as follows. Somebody calls us up and says, I need a medallion stamp. Okay. I give them the website, eSignatureGuarantee.com. I say, you can go online and get a medallion stamp. Well, how much is it? I say, it's $149. They're like, what? That's outrageous. My bank will do that for free. I say, well, why don't you go to your bank? Wait for it. Oh, they don't do that. Well, if they don't do that, then they're not really doing it for free, are they? It's like, and only the people in this room can appreciate the following scenario, where shareholders say, oh, we ask them, what's the cost basis? And they're like, oh, just put down 0, it's not worth anything. So my partner always says, if it's not worth anything, I'll take about 5 or 10 million if that's okay. They don't appreciate that line too much. But the bigger problem is as follows. It's inherent in how we define that the person is authentic, and what information do we need as transfer agents to be able to rely or guide them in getting that medallion. Let me paint this scenario for you. Tell me if it sounds familiar. You've got 2 brothers. Let's say they inherit $50,000, or make it even $500,000, so that they're over the limit of most banking institutions. Let's say Rick is in Ohio, Ron is in Missouri. Can I ask you the following question? Can somebody please explain to me the following? They both have to get a medallion on the same piece of paper, at the same branch, in 2 different states, while appearing in person at the same time. I feel like I'm taking the New York bar all over again. How is that possible? It's not. And these questions take other forms as well. You've got the very simple scenarios where a woman is holding stock in her maiden name, her bank account today is in her current name, and not all marriage licenses show both names at the same time. So a lot of people have a difficult time with that. As we said before, sometimes the caps are at only 100,000 instead of 500,000. Another example is on the corporate level. A lot of, whether it's a financial institution, a bank, they won't provide a medallion on the corporate level because it's an LLC. And the signing member of that LLC is another LLC, and the signing member of that LLC is another LLC. Literally, who's on first, what's on second. And why should the bank have to spend the time drilling down and drilling down and drilling down? And so they say, we won't provide that medallion. And frankly, that's what happened to me. I went to, about 1.5 years ago, I bank at Citibank. I'm a proud gold customer. I walked in there and I said hello to everybody. Hi Jan, hi Henry, hey Seth, how are the kids? Great. I said, I have an LLC, I have like $5,000 worth of stock, there's no bank account anywhere, can I get a medallion? I'm the sole member, provided all the paperwork. Sorry, we don't know you. I've been in here for 30 years, every 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you don't know me. And they said, well, if you open up an account and 6 months from now, then that LLC can get a medallion. And that way. So about 1.5 years ago, we went down the path to create eSignatureGuarantee. Right now it's patent pending, and I'll be honest with you, I had no idea at just how far-reaching the problem was. You know, my background is very much on the stock side, common stock, equity, just Joe shareholders, buying stock in an IPO. I founded, I used to be a securities attorney, don't hold that against me. I started a company called Vintage Filings, which we sold to PR Newswire, and then a company called V Corp, which we sold to Wolters Kluwer. And so my whole experience was always on just the IPO market. What we find is that probably 50% of the phone calls that we get every day are much more focused on trusts, trustees, executors, wills, letters of administration, letters of I had to literally learn an entirely new world. And there are so many people out there that have their assets on your systems and they can't access it. There are places where the trustee will try to go get a medallion, and they're told that since the asset is in the name of somebody else, the deceased for example, that they're not comfortable providing the medallion, even though that trustee can verify who he is. And so it really expanded the scope of people that are struggling with the medallion, whether it's in a certificate form, book entry form, 401k, funds. We do it all, and we just see more and more where people are struggling. So how do we give you a comfort level, or what comfort level should you be looking for when you want to authenticate somebody? So with our system, somebody will go online, provide their information. Simultaneously, that data is being run against different watch lists, OFAC lists. We provide dual factor authentication, which means a text to their phone, an email to their email address with security codes. And then on top of that, again, all simultaneously, we're providing out-of-wallet questions, things like many of the credit card companies offer. Which of these houses have you lived at? Which of these cars have you driven? And basically, within 60 seconds, we are very, very comfortable. And again, we are taking on that liability, so we better be comfortable. We're very comfortable that we know who we're dealing with. In fact, we had somebody from a large corporation who tested our system for their shareholders, and they came back and they said, your system is broken, what's going on? And we took a look at it, and in fact, somebody with the same name and the same social security number and the same date of birth in the same state was on a watch list of sorts. And so we were not comfortable proceeding, and I guess they went ahead and they rectified that situation. But that's the level that you want to be comfortable with. eSignature is a member of the STA and the SSA, and both have been very good overall with adjusting, adapting to changes in technology. The rules have certainly changed a little bit over the last couple of years. With the STA guidelines, they now have come out to say that a photocopy signature or a digital signature is acceptable. A lot of people very often still require the pen to paper, which is fine, but there is an element where things are changing towards this digital world. We partnered with HelloSign so that we give people an option. If you want to FedEx me your cert or your stock power with your pen to paper scribbled, great. If you want to do a digital signature on a stock power so that your transaction is done right away, great, we'll accept that as well. I do know that there have been many requests from the industry, and Keymark and others are working on sort of a digital medallion. But what we think it should be going towards is sort of like a hub, okay? In the real estate industry, which I know nothing about, in the real estate industry and mortgages, it's all online now. Everything from notaries to the signing, to the paperwork, to the digital signatures, all online. And there's no reason that the securities world can't go there as well if we have the right hub. I think that the solution that people are waiting to come out might be on the medallion, electronic medallion side, but that doesn't address the main issue, which is the verification identification on the front end. So getting the back end means you're doing an electric signature instead of a stamp. That doesn't really solve some of the issues out there. I also want to clarify that there are websites out there that will do a identity check. But most of those will tell you, the good ones even, will tell you to take a driver's license, upload it, or a passport, and they will run it through some sort of scan and confirm that it's a valid driver's license. Great. I don't know about you, but that's not enough for me. The fact that it's valid doesn't mean that you are the person that's in that driver's license. You know, my partner, Yoel, he's at 20 pounds 2 years ago. I think today's at one of those boot camp, go ruck, crawl in the mud kind of things. He's kept it all off. I promise you, he looks nothing like his driver's license from college right now. And so it can't just be that it's verified that it's valid. We need to come up with solutions so that it's valid and that I'm comfortable with that you are who you say you are. Once we can prove that, which we do right now for U.S. citizens, I should mention that our solution right now is limited to people with a social security number, because that helps our system mine the publicly available data to generate the security questions. So even if somebody's a U.S. citizen and they're traveling to Hong Kong, they need a medallion, no problem with them signing on to get it. But what we do want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to roll out, which we've been working on for almost a year, we want to roll out a solution to be able to verify foreign shareholders, because that we think is pretty interesting. You know, I'll be honest with you, when we first started the company and I was looking towards solutions to verify foreign shareholders, I just put it on the back burner. Everybody that we spoke with said, oh, well, if it's a foreign shareholder, then they could just get an indemnity from the issuer and we'll waive the medallion. Well, it turns out two things. First of all, many of the issuers aren't comfortable providing that indemnity and verifying that the shareholder is who they say they are. So we say to these guys, 1 second, it's your shareholder, you're the issuer. You're not comfortable taking on that liability. I sure as heck, as a transfer agent, am not willing to take on the liability if you're not. That's number one. And number two is, just found out, is that the reason why many transfer agents will waive that medallion for a foreign shareholder is because we all know that there's no solution. How many foreign banks in Israel, in China, how many of them are actually providing medallions? They know it's impossible. So we just put it on the back burner. But the rest of that sentence was, well, if you did have a way to verify foreign shareholders, I sure as heck am not going to be waiving it anymore. And so that's something we really do hope to roll out over the next 6 months. How might we do it? And this is just, I welcome all comments and suggestions. I think in today's environment, what we have to look at is really, most of us exist through social media. And so a lot of the tools that we're focusing on for foreign verification is not facial recognition per se, because it's challenging to get it to work correctly, but it's a combination of social media, where we can verify your LinkedIn account, your Facebook, all the pictures match who you are, all the addresses, and then on top of that, a SIM card validation, where we can actually track the SIM card and the cell phone number that you provide and confirm that you are in fact the owner. So with that multi-pronged approach, we believe that we'll be able to do that very comfortably. So our objective is really, I think the terminology these days is RegTech, to combine compliance and technology. And I think anybody that embraces this is really going to benefit their organization as well as the shareholders that they are trying to service. I am thrilled that TS Partners is at the forefront of that, trying to take technology to the next level for the benefit of the transfer agent and for the benefit of the shareholders. That's what we're all doing here today. Everybody here is looking to embrace technology in a better way. So we've learned a couple, or at least I've learned a couple of new terms over the last 24 hours. Still over my head on most of it. Integration, interface, API, it's all computer jargon as far as I'm concerned. The old school way of integration, I'll just give you by example, is take a firm like ComputerShare. What ComputerShare has done is they just wanted to put at the bottom of every form eSignatureGuarantee as a resource for anybody that needs a medallion. It's on every transfer form, cover letters, great. That's the old school integration. What TS Partners has done, I don't know if you saw John's presentation before, that's a new school integration, where you have the ability for the shareholder to see that they can click to see what their holdings are, what they want to do, what they want to change, and also the ability to click on obtain a medallion. You know, and so I just wanted to thank John again, because that was his initiative. I have 7 kids. I know I don't look like it, but I have 7 kids. And what I was thinking about as an analogy is that when we go to Disneyland, that rare occasion that I muster up enough courage to go to Disneyland with 7 kids, we might have the greatest day. And what happens is, in order to get out of the theme park, you've got to get to the gift shop, through the gift shop to the exit. I can live with the gift shop, but I can't make it past the cashier part, where they have everything laid out that you could possibly want. That's what I think John did, and everybody from TS Partners. You put it all there for the shareholders so that it's there for the taking. They can't go through the system, and if they need a medallion, it's just there. And so you could definitely speak to John further about integration and interface issues with that. I'm going to leave you with a story. There was a young boy, and he wanted to go visit his grandmother. So the grandmother said, terrific, let me give you instructions. Instructions? Okay. So she says to him, listen, Johnny, when you get to the building, I want you to open up the door with your left hand, and there's a little hallway. I want you to take your right elbow and I want you to hit my floor, 3A. What that's going to do is it'll buzz open the inner door and take your left foot, hook it around, and you'll get into the hallway. And then there's an inner door. I'm down the hall. Take your right foot and kick it open. You're good to go. I can't wait to see you. He says, Grandma, wow, I'm excited to see you also, but I don't understand. What's with all my right elbow, my left elbow, my left foot, my right foot? So she stops for a second. You're not coming empty-handed, are you? It takes a minute. It takes a minute. There you go. I don't think that anybody here today is leaving empty-handed. I think we've all learned a lot. We've gotten some phenomenal tools to help shareholders, to protect ourselves. And I think that the most important part is that we're able to do this, and this is the most important thing, without sacrificing the standards of compliance or security. So if you have any questions, I'd love to chat with you about it. My name is Seth, and my friends call me Elizabeth.